Greetings, sir and sirettes, and welcome back to From the Depths with me, Lathrix, and of course, welcome to a bit of revenge against the Steel Empire. In front of you, you see all of my usual larger tanks, but now heavily upgraded, especially when it comes to the Angrons. We tested these very briefly in the previous video, and honestly, I was just outright disappointed. They didn't act at all as I was expecting, and it turns out I had actually made a series of mistakes. The first of which, the turret, for some reason, was capped at around about 90 rounds per minute, when it can actually go to around about 150. I'm not sure when I did this, but it was clearly making a serious problem. In addition to this, the shells were just far too slow and far too short range, so now they shoot faster, slightly less damaging shells, almost double the speed, so I'm really happy with that. The Krull AI has had its missiles redone, so now they should be a little bit more effective, and I've also made sure the armor is actually properly spaced, so we should keep the enemy at bay. I've also changed all of the single blocks for beams and multi-blocks, so it should be a little bit better in terms of defense. And finally, our little Scriven has been upgraded slightly in terms of how much power is in the lasers and the field of fire for them, so now it should be a decent anti-air. And with all of that, we should now be able to kill the Steel Empire and actually put up some decent fights. I don't think we're going to win outright, but it's going to be very fun now that it's a little bit more balanced. In addition to all of this, with the shields and everything else with the Angron, I have also changed the armor on the inside, so now it's a little bit better protected against a single very powerful attack, such as the particle cannons. I'm not sure if it's going to save them, but it should make them a little bit more resistant. So with all that out of the way, let's get into a battle. And so here we go, testing out the upgraded heavy tanks for the very first time. Now, one thing I will say is all of my resource is currently in this group. I have pretty much no resource left anywhere else because all of these are very expensive. The cost is about comparable now to the Steel Empire themselves, ranging from between 20,000 and 40,000 per tank. Which means, of course, if we lose, we've lost a lot, but if we win and if we can get some resource from the enemy, it will definitely be worth it. Let's just pause time for a second so I can see what's going on. There we are, and I'm already shooting apparently with the Scriven. So we have a bear. Is that the bear or is that the bear at the back? The bear at the back is the true bear, and that is very weird to say. These are the brush cutters, and the one in the centre is the Hexer, of course, with the really scary railgun. So, let's see how the lasers do, and let's see how everything does. Begin the battle. The laser is cutting away the metal, so that's pretty darn awesome. Some deflects there from our new shields on the Angron. Hopefully it can deflect the rail cannon shot. Our shots are hitting back, and there goes one of the brush cutters into the air. The missiles from the Krull are now heading towards us, but we have taken some damage on one of the Angrons as well. And that's what I wanted to see, honestly, a more balanced fight. The Angron is definitely surviving so much better now it's using shields against the Empire. The bear is now under attack from 3 of the Angron's cannons, and up into the air it goes, the laser happily attacking the sides. Sadly though, with all that smoke, the laser damage is very low, and friendly fire from one of the Angrons! No! Why did you do that? Oh, that would have been a perfect battle, but no, one of the Angrons, of course, destroyed the other Angron, because why not? Cruise missiles there from the Krull. That was better. That was significantly better. The Angrons so much better than their previous form. Those shields make a world of difference in addition to spacing out the armor a little bit and not relying so heavily on heavy armor. However, we did lose an Angron, and that's going to cost us a fortune to repair. So overall, that was actually a loss, because we only get 10% of the cost of the ships we destroy. That is, yep, definitely a loss in resources. What a shame. Well, start repairing and head on back. At least it was a victory, so we have made a little bit of headway towards the enemy. Do none of my vessels have repair tentacles? Apparently not. Krull AI, spawn in for a second. Hello there, buddy. Could you please have some repair tentacles? That would be fantastic. Just, let's see. No, we haven't hit maximum volume. I thought you had. Well, in that case, just put them along the sides here. There we are. Then that way, we can start repairing the other vehicles outside of combat. Fantastic. You just stay there at the resource, and then when you're done, head on back to get the full repairs. Okay, that was a good test. Really, really happy with the Angron's cannons. That was very effective. Because they aren't affected by shields, they just went straight through and started breaking apart the enemy's armor. However, like I say, that was definitely a loss. We haven't even repaired the final Angron, and we've run out of resource. We need to do better than that if we are to continue the campaign without constantly having to go back to our base. But at least this means we can now defend against them effectively, although I haven't tested out against the anti-air, and honestly there are more scary vehicles in the Steel Empire than what we've just fought. The vehicles are now repaired, and here we are at one of the original Cathalons. This is at the original resource zone, which of course is an infinite resource zone. So from here will be a good place to start designing and building a few new things whilst we wait for the enemy to attack us. And the first thing I would like to build isn't really something I was aiming to build today, but I've now realised we really do need. And that is a satellite. Now one way we could build the satellite is by going into new objects, going into vehicle, and simply going all the way up into space and then building it up there. But I don't think that would be quite as fun, so instead I'm going to build a little satellite that can get into the air, into space from the ground. So let's go ahead and do that. And of course it's going to be powered by RTGs, because no, I am not going to be powering this by fuel-fed engines, because that means I would actually have to get fuel all the way from here to space. And that's just annoying. Okay, this should work. It's an ugly piece of scrap, but it's quite cheap, and this should be able to get into space from a ground takeoff without any issues, and then it should be able to control itself. At least, that's what I think will happen if I'm looking at everything correctly. I'm not particularly good at all this, so I didn't even bother trying to make this look half decent. I think everyone can agree I'm not particularly good with aesthetics anyway, so when I'm doing something I'm not particularly sure of, that's going to take the back seat. So, this should activate it.
Taking control.
Yes, it has. Okay, can I get on it, please? Thank you. Oh, it looks like it's floating rather than taking off. Okay. Oh, because it is actually going forwards with one of the thrusters. How's the power level? Power level is fine. It actually has some spare engine power, although it's not trying to turn yet. It's slowly floating into space. I've just realised we haven't added any red lights to this. We also haven't coloured it properly. How dare we? We can at least do that. There we are. Now it looks more evil. And then let's go to decorations and the neon lights, because I prefer how they look. And where can I add this? Let's just add this straight into the AI itself. There we are. Now it looks far better and far more evil. How high are we now? We are at 1,200 meters above ground. And continuing. Oh, problem, small problem. How is this going to allow it... Okay, so one small problem, as I was just explaining very badly in my head, is that I haven't made it so it can control its height. It can't go down, it can't pitch down is the problem, so... I need a thruster somewhere on the top, but currently we are somewhere without resource. Fantastic. Either way, though, we are in space, and... wow! We can see a lot. So, the Onyx Watcher there, and here... What's that? Deep core mining. There is a resource zone for the lightning hoods right next to us.
Listening.
And pull all, and now that should allow us to permanently keep it at that height. Wonderful. What's that there? That was the Dustwind Gypsies. Okay, let's spawn this guy in again. Apparently I just spawned in low. No, I didn't. Okay, and let's put it on fleet move.
And fly with fleet.
And let's see if we can make it turn. So currently it's going that way. Go over here. Yep, it is indeed turning. Although it is gaining in altitude permanently. So that is something we need to fix then. We need to give it a small ion thruster on the top, just so it can make sure it can go down, essentially. Currently it can go up and sideways, but that's it. And of course with space and no friction, it's going to go higher and higher and higher forever. Ooh, is that turning even working? Okay, now it's working. I just got a few of the settings wrong with the thrusters, but now they are working absolutely fine, and as you can see, I've ordered it to go over here, and it is indeed going over there. And if I turn this way, we should hopefully see on this, we can see the ship now changing course and going towards the right. So yep, the satellite is now fully functioning. It can go pretty much anywhere on the map all by itself, and because it's powered by RTGs, it means it will never run out of power. The fact that the radar dish is facing upwards, we're just going to pretend makes complete logical sense in every single way. Ooh. And we have some white flares reinforcing their territory. Very cool indeed. So now we can see pretty much everything, which is really, really helpful.
Moving out.
Satellite, go over here.
Moving out.
With our satellite now in space, it's time to build our light tank, and here we are with the very basic shell. So, the maximum volume I'm looking for is around about 800, although 700 will be our goal, 800 will be our lenient goal, depending on which fuel source we use, since RTGs are far less volume efficient, but of course, don't cost after we pay for them, and because of the current RTG bug, I will have to, every time we make one, manually place an RTG just to make sure we are paying the true cost rather than the buggy cost, which is the repair cost, even though it's not meant to work like that, which I have had some confirmation about. The first time you build a vehicle, it is meant to cost the full 750, and then when you repair it, it costs less. However, currently it just costs the repair cost at all times, which is very, very low, and really puts almost no purpose on the fuel engines. I will probably go with the fuel engine either way, though, because it is far more space efficient and will give us enough power to hopefully be a very, very fast tank. Now, when it comes to weaponry, I think we're going to go with the advanced cannon, and we are going to go with flak or an armor-piercing minigun. If we go with flak, we're going to go with 2 barrels, and I'm going to go for a 100 meter, that would be amazing, 100 millimeter shell, although now I'm really wishing that 100 meter shells did exist, because that would be freaking awesome, and then we'll have a 10 meter explosion radius, and it will be good at shooting down flyers, although not particularly powerful, because this is going to be so cheap, as even the armor is the light version of the armor. We can have several of these trying to shoot down flyers, which will be quite effective. If we go with the minigun, we're going to go with a 50 millimeter shell, and we're going to go with armor piercing with as fast a fire rate as possible. I'm also not sure if I'm going to go with the, if I can find them, with the belt-fed loaders or the regular auto-loaders. If we go with the regular auto-loaders, it means we have a constant fire rate, which will never stop. If we have the belt-fed loaders, we will have a much faster fire rate, although we will have to go into a reload stage in the middle of combat. But since they're such a light vehicle, and there's a good chance these things will just be knocked out in the middle of combat, I think going for the belt-fed would be better regardless of the type of weapon we go for. And now, I build. It looks like a weird little bug, but at least right now we have all of the basic systems inside other than the AI and the ammunition storage. On the outside, the main detection system will be on the cannon itself. I'm still not sure though if I'm going to go with a flak with a larger shell or a smaller shell minigun which will go for armor piercing to do a little bit of damage over time. It's really hard to say, and I'm not particularly good at building these very small builds. Also, ignore the fact it's tilted. For some reason, the front wheels are currently bugged out into the ground, because the ground in this game, slightly buggy. A bit like this poor vehicle. Very, very buggy. Here we are in the sandbox very briefly, because I may have ended up building this vehicle the wrong way around. The front section over here was actually the left section, and the front was somewhere over here. So naturally, the vehicle didn't function. So in case anyone else is a bit absent-minded like myself, the way to fix this is to go in the sandbox mode, select the design, and then rotate 90 degrees until it's facing the correct way. I haven't tested it yet, and that's all we're doing. Now, back into the campaign. Oh, I can see you there, Steel Empire. You're not sneaking up on anyone. Thank you very much to our little scrappy satellite, as I've only just now came back into the campaign after that little sandbox insanity. Now that we've got our thing facing the correct way, we can continue to work on the cultist, which is what I'm going to call the light tank, as soon as we're done with this rather minor looking fight. Nice and close now, there we are. So who are we against? We are against a bear, a brush cutter, and a brush cutter. So a smaller force than before. Once again, put the Angrons nice and close because they do better at short to medium range. The Krull as far back as possible, the Shriven about mid-range, and the Angron once again somewhere close. Actually, let's see how good it is at long range. The detection system probably isn't good enough for this, but I would like to see just how it deals with that. Okay, our laser has hit several times, and they are firing at the Angron very, very far away. Oh, the laser has downed the bear already, although it could have been the Angron shot. Several of them did hit. I'm not holding onto the gun, am I? No, I didn't think I was. That's weird. Both of the close-range Angrons just not firing and just happily mowing around. Why? Are you not loaded? Did we just capture a bear? Okay, that happened. We captured one. It died, but we can repair it afterwards, and now the other one's firing. Oh, I mustn't have gave it a chance to reload after the last battle. They can fire for 1 minute 30, and then after that, they have to take about 20 seconds to reload. At least that was my testing earlier. So what did we just capture? Sorry for the terrible cameramanship there. I was so distracted about what was going on with the cannons. All of you reload. I have got myself a brush cutter. Okay, go back to base so we can get you repaired, because we're about to go into another fight straight away. Another flight, this time with the Reaper on the enemy team. Now, the Reaper, I'm fairly certain, is the rather large flyer we were fighting earlier. So I'm really hoping the Shriven will be able to fight that effectively, or of course the missiles from the Krull AI. Again, Krull at the back, Shriven somewhere at the back as well, and then a nice space for the Shriven to fire down. And one of the Angrons at the back as well, which apparently didn't fully repair. I also had a quick look-see, and it was correct. They just didn't have a chance to reload between battles, because occasionally that happens for no real reason, as they are meant to be able to reload between battles when they're taken out of the world, when they're taken out of play, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. But sometimes it does. I have no idea why. Begin the battle. You can probably see what's going... Whoa! Laser instantly obliterating one of the enemies. Yeah, I have really upgraded the Shriven, it seems. Straight into the core, and straight away a detonation. It's really dark for me. Hopefully I'll brighten this in editing. To the people who are complaining about missiles being boring, face the wrath of lasers! I knew you'd be attacking salvage. And there go the missiles from the Krull AI, in addition to several hits from one of the Angrons. In fact, the Angron shots were the most damage there. A few armor-piercing hits hitting us, but most of it going off thanks to our shields. One of the Angrons have lost a turret, but I do think that may have been because of our own lasers. I really need to start setting up systems. Oh, stop. All of you off right now. I actually lost an Angron. No, I was going to try and capture it, but it just disintegrated. Okay, we need a capturing vehicle. Well, we did lose an Angron, but I'm fairly certain that came from our own Shriven shooting it to death, so well done. Your laser is far too powerful even for an Angron's heavy armor. You'll be missed, Angron. Now, we could have captured that Reaper. Well, probably not. By the looks of things, it was already too damaged and disintegrating when it landed on the floor. But we would have had a chance if we had a melee vehicle, because even if we build a vehicle purely for getting there quickly, the problem with that is, if it's a very light vehicle, it will probably be destroyed in the course of battle. And I really need to sort out a way of keeping all of these things from shooting at each other, because this is getting silly now. Sadly though, it's not as easy as it seems. I remember doing it a while back for my flyers, but that's actually easier than for tanks. They will get in each other's way, and they have a very hard time deciding if there's something in front of them which is an allied vehicle. They can tell when terrain is there, but not when a vehicle is, and I'm not sure how we can fix that. Although with the Angron's death, it means once again we have suffered a loss in terms of resource count, even with those two very successful battles. All will be corrupted by the touch of chaos. Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne, milk for the cornflakes.
Receiving. Moving.
And so the cultist is on the move at around about 40 meters per second, and how this is working is that on the inside we have dedicated Hellerblade spinners constantly forcing this thing onto the ground. It does mean that if we ever flip, we'll probably go off flying to the side, but it also means we can go at rather quick speeds and simply not flip over. We actually have some engine power spare as well, so we could make this a little bit quicker. So the cultist does have a purpose. Just being really, really quick. Its gun should be reloaded now. I've gone for a bit of a halfway point. We haven't gone for the full minigun, and we haven't gone for flak. We've gone for 70mm shells, which shoot at around about 180 rounds per minute. It's not overly quick. It's about 3 per second, something like that. So it's okay. It's decent enough. If we were against the Dustwind Gypsies, it would be really good. Against the enemy we're currently facing, probably not overly fantastic. I'm not quite finished yet though, as you can see. The outside armour is yet to be smoothed off, and I haven't set up the detection system properly yet, but it's a functional craft, and it only costs 4,300. It's very cheap. Volume 615. Tiny, cheap, affordable, and probably going to do well against everything, kind of. I mean, armor-piercing rounds tend to do okay against everything but the most heavily shielded opponents. And we are about to be under attack yet again. For now, because I'm too scared of friendly fire, I'm turning the Angron onto just on rather than combat. This means they won't try to broadside the enemy. Another thing I could do, which really I should just do, is make it so they don't try to get as close as they currently do. They are set at the moment to get within 300 meters of the enemy and broadside from there, and if they get any closer than that, to ram them, because they're corn, and I like ramming things. But maybe I should set them to go back to around about 1,000 meters and try to keep their distance, similar to the Shriven and the Krull. That way we probably won't run into so many issues of them crashing into each other. Also, we do have something special planned for the enemy. The brush cutter is now fully online, and will be joining our forces on the front line against the enemy. Welcome, O glorious traitor. And you even have your own little light now. I've just been having a look-see at the internals of the brush cutter, and I think I now understand why this thing detonates so easily if we hit it on the underside, or hard enough from the front or the back. And that is the simple fact that this turret takes up the entire central cavity, and is filled with explosive shells. If we hit this turret, the entire tank dies. It explodes gloriously, and then it's too damaged to continue. So that's why the lasers have been doing so well, since the lasers at the moment are set to do a lot of damage in the initial burst, and then they get weaker over time, because I've kind of overdone the engines, and they don't have exhausts anymore in some sections. Pretty much the engines work, and then they break, but while they're working, it's really powerful, and then it goes off to the side engines, which aren't quite as powerful, but still good enough. Either way, the point is, the lasers hit here, they go through, this goes boom, in a matter of seconds. And so we move into the final battle of the day. This time, we are not going to allow the Angrons to move, which means they will not get in the way of the Shriven's lasers, or in the way of each other's shots. In the front, we have a brush cutter. We have our Traitor brush cutter, who will hopefully be utterly obliterated, because that will just be fun. Although it is now heading into nighttime, so I may just wait a minute or two until daytime resumes. Hopefully this will turn out well, and against us we are against 2 Orions, so although they are really awesome with their cram cannons, I am yet to see them actually hit anything with them, so perhaps they can start by hitting the brush cutter, which will be really cool. It's now morning, but sadly it's also incredibly misty, so hopefully in editing I've made it as clear as possible, but I'm sorry if it looks a little bit blurry, and by the looks of things, everything's good to go. So begin the battle. Laser instantly firing several times. The brush cutter is firing a little bit off for some reason, but kudos for trying. And the Angrons long distance firing their shells, actually hitting the target. The Orions definitely have a lot more health than the targets we was fighting earlier. Oh, brush cutter getting in the way of the shells. Will he be hit? Thankfully not. And all off for a second. Let's just survey the damage. 2 damaged, and this one just looks like it's just standing there. Okay, so we are actually in the brush cutter already, but I'm going to have to break myself out. So we are going to be birthed from the center of the brush cutter. That's reasonable and doesn't sound wrong in any way. Hopefully the Orion hasn't died yet. That would be fantastic if that's the case. Hello, world! That Orion looks like the cannon's working, but nothing else. If it can't turn around, it can't fight. Well done, brush cutter. You eventually hit the target. Still a little bit concerned about the Steel Empire's detection system, although it turns out in the first clip, from the first fight against the Steel Empire, I was complaining about one gun, which was actually an anti-missile gun. So of course it wasn't hitting the target, well, the target I thought it was going after. Where are you? Oh, that looks so sad, the gun's trying so much to— oh, okay, let's quickly find it. Its movement has just turned back on, and it's turning around to face against the brush cutter. I don't particularly want to lose that, because it's very expensive, so let's find the AI. Okay, I've found the AI, but it's right next to a very explosive section of the cannon, so I have to be very careful, only to fire when the cannon raises itself. I've been doing this for the last minute or so. Come on. Oh! Did I get it? I got it! Thank you! And we have a traitorous Orion, which looks really awesome in red. Wow, look at that! I honestly expected the main part of it to be grey, and then the red to be where the grey is, but that looks really awesome as well. So there we are, we have a Traitor Orion and a Traitor Brush Cutter, and I think today has been a huge success. We have our satellite, we have the workings of a light tank which will be finished in the next episode, and we have been showcasing we can now defeat the enemy Steel Legion on a fairly reliable basis. So with that, thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, then of course, likes, favourites, shares, comments, all that good stuff helps out me, helps out the channel, and most importantly, shows that From the Depths is a series you wish to see continued in the future. In the next episode, we're going to move into their territory and hopefully claim one of their resource zones, because they are attacking us far too frequently, and we have just ran out of both of these oh no, only one. We have run out of this resource zone, but apparently not this one. This one's an infinite. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.